Hello, my name is Carol Clark, and I am the CTE Temps Grant Coordinator, and our website is right there under my name. I want to talk to you about a Navigator introduction, and this is specifically for administrators. And I want you to know that our company is interested in one thing: solutions. Solutions for CTE education. And in spite of the fact that my handwriting leaves a lot to be desired, I certainly hope that you'll find this to be enlightening if you've never used Navigator before. Embedded in Navigator is the SIP Self-Review, and we will have individual videos for each of the areas of the SIP Self-Review. But this will give you an introduction to the website, and there are some amazing things on the website. I hope we can show you that. So let's get started. This is the MCCTE Navigator website. MCCTE stands for the Michigan Center for Career and Technical Education. I hope to navigate you through this somewhat, and I think the first thing that you will probably notice are the tabs at the top. So we're going to go over what's under some of those tabs, and you may even be surprised. In the upper left-hand corner, you are going to see a place for your email. After you put in your email, you will need a password. If you haven't signed in to Navigator before, you will need to register. You'll be asked a lot of questions that are very simple. It won't take you long, and then they will email you your password. You will not get it right there on the spot. So once you have your email and your password in, click Log In. Once you do that, a lot of things are open to you that were not prior to logging in. But I will tell you there are a lot of things that the public can get to that you can get to even if you misplace your password, which people often do. On the first page, you will see an area that's called How to Use Navigator. One of the things that our arrow is pointing to are instructions for operating building administrators. What I've done is I've actually opened up that document and pasted below, right about here, the beginning of those instructions. You will notice that there is actually a hot link right there to the login page and very specific instructions on how you as an operating building administrator should proceed in Navigator. It starts by telling you that the CPID administrators, and there are instructions for those as well, right above that, have to open up your ability to be able to work in Navigator with your teachers. Over to the right of that is a What's New area. It's very important that you check that on a regular basis because all of a sudden you'll see things like this biotechnology review and revision, brand new standards. If you don't know that, then you may go on assuming that the same standards for last year carry on to this year. You'll also see the View More. I've got a big arrow pointing to that View More. It is right here. There are lots of things there. I'll show you that in just a second. I also wanted to point out the contact information that we have over to the right. And it's critical, I think, that you are comfortable contacting MCCTE. First of all, there's an address. There's the website for the Office of Career and Technical Education. But honestly, on this slide, the most important thing is this area right here that has the contact information. Make sure that you use that. There is a nice young man named Kevin, and let me spell his name for you. It is Kavin. Pardon the bad handwriting. And that young man will help you with just about anything that you need to find in Navigator. All of the documents you see here are under that What's New area where it said More on the previous slide. And I wanted to show you what was available. I want you to notice that there are lots of pages here, so there are lots more documents than you can see. I also wanted to show you that over on the right here, which is page 2, it talks about different standards, and it says, for instance, 2013 implemented by fall 2014. It's important for you to stay on top of when those standards have to be implemented, or your teachers may be using the wrong gap analysis, the wrong standards, and many of the other wrong documents when it's their time to be monitored. There are also things like the Davenport University statewide articulation agreement, which you'll see here. Those are the kinds of things that you'll want to know the location of. Another tab at the top of the page that is evident is called Schools, and when you touch that, My Schools and All Schools are listed. So if you clicked All Schools, and you go down to the area that I have listed here that talks about schools, because I've pasted that in, you'll see that there are a whole list of schools starting with the first, Adlai Stevenson High School. The city is listed as well. So if I click on Adlai Stevenson High School, what I get is up here in the right hand corner. That's just where I've pasted it in. And for every school you will see the CPID, the name of the school, the address, city, state, and phone numbers, even fax numbers usually. And you also have here an email contact, and usually there's a web page as well. So now if you want to get a hold of any other administrator in any other school, it's an ideal place to go because this is updated every single year. Most things are not. So this is a very good resource for you as an administrator. Another tab at the top is called Programs. Under Programs is My Programs and All Programs. Usually you will want to click My Programs. When you click on My Programs, all the programs from your building that you have access to will be pulled up in a list. And if you click on one of those programs, this one is Computer Programming, note that one of the things that you will have access to are all the program standards. Look, for instance, at all the performance elements. Those, again, are the numbers, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc., etc. And you can actually print those out for your advisory committees. So that's one way to get those without using the very large Excel spreadsheet that is part of the gap analysis. Under this same tab is a segments report, and you can go to any of the programs that were listed, choose it, and I chose agriculture 1.0000 this time. I chose to list all of the standards, but you can choose from the different ones that are available. Perhaps you just want the technical standards. You can choose those. Or the cluster standards. You could choose those. Even the career-ready practices. So any of those or all of those are available for you to choose. Once you do that, then you choose which segment you want this from. So you'll choose. So I chose segments 1 through 6, And then I would hit the tab that says Generate at the bottom of this list, and it will give me a report, like I'm going to show you in the next slide. As you can see here, these are the technical skill standards. And what we have here is a list of all of the standards, and if you will notice over to the right at the top, you'll see segments 1 through 3. If I had a little wider screen, you could see the rest of the 4 through 6 that I also chose, but this will have to do for now. And under that, you will see which standards are in those segments of the ones that we can see on this page. So remember, the standards that we're looking at are the numbered ones, the performance elements. Under academics, you will be able to choose from several different academic areas. I've chosen math and I've chosen algebra, and this is under the Michigan Merit Mathematics. Then I hit the button that says Generate. And when I do that, I get math, 7th grade, and algebra, and I have a list. And you'll notice that's agriculture. In the technical standards, it tells which standard it is and what that standard says. So there's a very thorough math alignment to each of the program areas that's already done for you. So that should be a big head start to your teachers when they are trying to align their standards with the different academic areas. If you want to take that to your board to show them that this was what the state recommended and that these are the ones that your teacher can see will work with their program, that gives a little more weight to your ability to get academic credit for your CTE program. There is another tab at the top called Resources, and the first thing you'll see here are the academic resources, and those are mostly posters. But one thing you'll definitely want to keep track of is this SIP Self-Review. Now the SIP Self-Review, which is right here, is going to be very important to you and to your teachers. It is the brand new one with the 6 major areas instead of the old one that had 18. You're going to want to take a look at that so you understand what you're looking at when you look at your teacher documents. The next thing that you'll want to look at are the gap analysis documents. I'm trying not to make you seasick here. But the gap analysis documents, these are the Excel spreadsheets. These are not the electronic gaps, but they are the long form with all the columns. What I wanted to point out to you is that you are going to want to look in every case at the ones that say consolidated, like this one does in animal health, because the consolidated one is the most recent gap analysis in review and revision, at least for this year. Also notice down here, 2013, implemented by fall of 2014. Very important for your teachers because, again, you want them to be using the correct documents when they do their gap analysis. Farther down on that same page are the instructional design forms, right about here. Those we're going to talk about in the next slide. I did also want to point out, though, that there are numerous PowerPoints here. And all of these talk about the standards release, or at least many of them do, and the review and revision process. So when your teachers ask you, who came up with those, as I've been asked, and you probably have in the past too, you can actually send them to the PowerPoint and let them see exactly who did it and how they did it and how those things were made. An important part of a CTE administrator's life these days is the instructional design form, or as my teachers call it, the segment sheet. I'd like to show you the important parts of this to begin with. You know, of course, that you have to fill it in, so you will be looking at putting your school name in here, your PSN in there, the zip code, and the program name. That's the simple part. This is a 1 year by semester sheet, but there's also a 1 year by trimesters, a 2 year by semesters, a 2 year by trimesters, a quarters one. All of those you can find on that link that was on the resources page. So let's make this segment sheet our test teacher's segment sheet. Now, our test teacher really only teaches in the first semester. She actually teaches one course in the first semester, and then she teaches a whole different course in the second semester. So we're going to put her name right there. But second semester, there's a different teacher who teaches, and we're going to put her name here. If you have 3 or 4 teachers that are teaching, put all of their names in these places. Then you're going to put the class name right here and right here for second semester. When it comes to the segments, you don't really have to fill this in at all. What you do have to do is make sure that the segments are circled. So let's say that our test teacher in the first semester of this 1 year program teaches segments 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12. Then the next teacher, our teacher 2, has to teach the following segments: 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and 11. You cannot use any of those segments in a program twice. I don't care if you have 4 different courses and 4 different semesters. You cannot use any number twice in the same PSN and the same zip code. That cannot be done. So make sure that you do that when you're looking at these segment sheets to determine if they've been filled out correctly. Look for the numbers 1 through 12 to be circled. Also, you should make sure that the teacher signs the sheet. That is their verification that what they said, this is when they teach those segments. And that's when the CTEIS person who enters your data will take that sheet to enter into CTEIS. This is another segment sheet. It is a 2 year, and I want you to notice that over here on the right is a segment Q. That you didn't see before. That's because after a student has completed all 12 segments in the first year, and they must complete all 12 segments, they must have taken the assessment if it's offered by the state, and they must have a 2.0 or above. If they have all of that and they decide they want to come back to look at an interesting profession that they didn't look at the first year in, let's say, that health science program that our test teacher is doing, they can come back as a Q, and you can be funded for those students. You will need a syllabus. You will need a different gap analysis with different standards on it, but you can be funded for that student, and they can do kind of their own thing in that area. It's an enhancement of what they got in those first 12 segments. So, if that student had a C minus, can that student be a Q? No. You'll also need to check carefully to see if this student took their test the year before. If they didn't, Can they be a Q? No. It's important because when it comes to funding, the state is very particular and they will look for this. So make sure that those students are looked at carefully and that they meet all the criteria. Now we're going to start looking at the SIP self-review. And I know some of you are thinking, well, it's about time. I hope you enjoyed the little navigation that we did through the site because it's important for you to know what's available to you. In the SIP self-review, when you pull up My Programs, under the SIP self-review, you will see the name of all your programs, their program serial number, the school, and then you will see this little area that's called Started. Under there you're going to see different dates, or you're going to see the word Review. The teacher cannot get into their SIP self-review until you have chosen to review that program. So you will have to click on the word Review, and the date for the day that you click will appear in that box. Once everything is completed in the SIP self-review, the finish date will show up over here. And that way you can see when the SIP self-review was started and when it was completed for every single one of your programs. Once the teacher has started their SIP self-review, we have another video that will show them exactly what to do. I'm not going to take your time in this particular video to show you that, but that may be what you're most interested in. Please feel free to look at the other video that will be on our website as well, and that will help you know exactly what those teachers have to do. When the teacher goes into Navigator, the first thing that will pull up for everyone, whether or not they are the designated lead teacher, will be the user profile. At the bottom of that user profile, it tells them what program they are scheduled to be in. Only you can change that under the Users tab. Under the Users tab, you can change what program those teachers are in. This one, for instance, it says that this teacher, this test teacher, is in Personal and Culinary Services. Well, we know that that is not true, that the teacher is actually in Health Sciences. So what we have to do is remove that. You will go over here, you can't quite see the whole word, but it's the beginning of the word remove on the right, and you will click remove to remove that. Now you have to add a program because every teacher has to have a program. So there's a little drop down arrow right here, and when you click that drop down arrow, all of the programs that are state approved in your building will be listed, and you can click on the right one to put in there. Then you need to make sure that you click the add program, and after that you need to really remember to hit that save, because if you don't click on the save, you will not save the changes that you just made. Now that test teacher will be listed as being in Health Science. I did want to show you some things about the SIP self-review that you as administrators need to pay attention to. The first would be, notice on the screen I've got CO2, Program Teacher Professional Development, and CO6, which is, by the way, right here, Program Advisory Committee. I actually just pasted that in there. CO6 will actually follow CO2 now in the new numbering system, but I put it here so we could get it on one screen. What I want to point out very specifically is in CO2, the teacher did not check either the yes or the no. They have to click the yes. It is critical that they do that yes. Well, I messed that up nicely, so at any rate, I hope you can tell that the yes is being filled in. but they have to do that. You cannot as an administrator. So they could have all their documents in, everything could look great. They've left for the summer, you're looking at their documents, and you cannot click that yes, and a program of improvement still will be generated. So it's very important that you have them click that yes and that you look for that when you're going through. The other thing is, note that in CO6 there is an area here where all kinds of documents are listed. Now the interesting thing about that is that in this area right here, it talks about documentation of a minimum of 2 meetings each school year. Well, lo and behold, their meetings are actually here. In fact, here's a set of meeting minutes right there. But they are not in the proper box. They need to go down here. That's because in the new protocol, in the new numbering, they actually have separated the boxes so that you need to put the right things in the right boxes. What does that mean to you? Well, you're going to have to tell your teachers that they're actually going to have to delete a lot of their documents and put them into the correct box. And they delete it by just simply clicking the X. That's not going to be pleasant, but it is something that they need to do for this year only. For following years, it will automatically go into the correct box, but this year, all the documents were kind of jumbled up together in that one area and dumped into different boxes. So the computer didn't know which box they went in, and so this year they're going to have to do that. So even if they believe they've got everything finished and all their ducks in a row because they were so careful last year, it will not be correct, and they're actually going to have to delete those files and re-upload them. There is no copy and paste here. It doesn't work. You actually have to delete the file in the one box and upload it in the other by adding evidence, which is right there, and that's how you do that. We've always stressed to make sure that the teachers keep their local files strong. Everything should be in their local files. This is a great reason why. Because when changes are made at the Office of Career and Technical Education, they may need to get back into those local files to re-upload those documents. So hopefully they have done that. I won't be showing you the other areas of the SIP self-review because that really is for a different video, and in that case I'll be showing each area. For instance, CO6 will have its own little 5 to 10 minute video, and CO2 the same. That way people can click on what they want to use and what they need to get into and not have to listen to a lengthy presentation like the one unfortunately you're listening to now. At the bottom of the SIP self-review, of every SIP self-review, there are several buttons that you need to be aware of. One is the save. We need to make sure that the teachers save things. At the end of everything, you can click on the show missing information, and it'll show you where the information is missing and what plan of improvements you have. And then if there is a plan of improvement, you're going to want to click this button so that you can print that out. That's going to be important for you as an administrator to know what kind of plans of improvement are there. But let's say that the teacher you think probably just missed something. In the lower right here, you're going to see about half a word actually, and it says communicate. And if you click on that, a box will pop up and it'll be blank, and you can type into that any message you want and click send, and it will actually go to the teacher directly to tell them they have a message on Navigator to go and look at that. So you don't have to find their email, you don't have to do all of that kind of thing. While you're in Navigator, you can actually communicate with them and they can see what the problem is, and they can hopefully correct that. It is not the end of the world if you do have a plan of improvement. As long as it's filled out properly, that is not a big deal. Certainly we know that things are not perfect in each of our classrooms, but just make sure that all of your ducks are in a row and then you'll be in good shape. The SIP self-review is a long process to train on. And I will tell you, we've taken a good deal of time with teachers to try to get them on board with everything. It's just as important that you, the administrator, are on board with what needs to happen here, because it really is you that is going to look at each of these SIP self-reviews, determine whether or not it's complete before you send it on to your regional administrator. It's important that your programs look as good as they truly are to the state of Michigan, that you show them what best practices look like, and that they see the good things that we're doing in the state of Michigan in career and technical education, not just the problems. So hopefully this has helped you out. There will be other videos that will not be quite so long. We hope to do one on CO1, another on CO2, a third on CO6, another on C10 and C13 and C16. That way you can actually go to those individual videos, which I hope will not be longer than 10 minutes, any one of them, and we can you'll have that as a resource. Otherwise, please feel free to email me, and I will answer you just as quickly as I possibly can, and hopefully you will be happy with our service, because we are here to serve. Thank you so much for all your time.